Hi, my name's Sonora Taylor, and I'm very happy to be part of Candisha Press's Women of Horror Volume 3, The One That Got Away. Today I will be reading the beginning of the story I contributed to the piece. It's called From Scratch. So here's the piece, and I hope you'll pick up the rest of the anthology when it comes out in February and see so many stories from so many amazing women. Okay, here we go. This is From Scratch. The ooze was Heather's least favorite part. The skin on her palms she could deal with, as well as the mottled red and orange pulp that seeped under her nails when she peeled the skin away after boiling it. She didn't even mind the ooze that much. It was simply her least favorite part because it was the messiest to clean up. She had to wash her hands after every slice, or else the knife would stick to her fingers and make the cutting all the more difficult. Heather washed her hands and lifted another peach from a bowl of ice water. It was soft and ripe in her hand, ready to go into her famous cobbler. She set the peach on the cutting board and stuck her knife into it. Slowly, not too fast. She didn't want it to turn into mush. Peeling the skin and cutting the peach slice by slice was what made it worthwhile. It was what made cooking an outlet to scratch the itch, one she'd felt since she was young. The softened pulp oozed through the slit in the skin. It smeared on Heather's wrist. She paused and watched it bleed, then closed her eyes and licked the ooze away. Heather brought a plate of roasted Brussels sprouts to the dining room table, where Brad was waiting with a knife in hand. The Brussels sprouts were lightly charred, folded in black beneath a darkened glaze of balsamic and ashen flecks of pepper. It was one of her best dishes. "Oof," Brad said as she set the plate down. "Brussels sprouts always smell like broccoli dyed in a diaper." Heather pursed her lips as she sat down, and Brad took her wrist. "Come on, baby. You know I'm kidding," he said. "That doesn't mean it's funny. I worked hard on this meal, and I'm grateful for it." He grabbed a Brussels sprout and grinned, "But they still smell like ass." Brad popped the sprout in his mouth, and the change from a smirk to delight in his face was enough to quiet Heather's temper. "They're delicious," he said as he reached for another. Heather batted his hand away. "Use the serving spoon," she said. The spread was too good to be handled by greasy fingers. Next to the plate of Brussels sprouts were mashed red potatoes with flecks of rosemary, roasted chicken breasts dripping with peach bourbon barbecue sauce, and glasses of iced tea mixed with fresh squeezed lemonade. "You got it, boss." Brad began to serve himself, and Heather closed her eyes. Most of the time she could handle his jokes. It helped that she enjoyed handling his body in the bedroom once dinner was over. But he could be especially irritating when they weren't having sex, especially when he joked about her cooking. Cooking was her passion, a hobby that kept her sane. The sound of Brad scraping the food she prepared onto his plate rang in her ears. She saw his snarky grin, heard his jokes above the din of crackling sprouts and the thump of potatoes onto his plate. She imagined him cutting himself on a knife or gagging on a stray chicken bone that hadn't made it out of the breast. Her thoughts instead turned to the chicken breasts, raw and pink on her cutting board. They'd wobbled as she'd cut them, left their juices behind in the wood. They seemed to bleed as she brushed them with her homemade sauce, sizzling in the hellfire of her oven. It was almost as satisfying as every lemon half she'd squeezed dry into the pitcher. Heather opened her eyes and smiled as she took the serving spoon from Brad. "Hope you like it," she said. Thank you all for listening, and once again, I hope you'll enjoy reading Women in Horror Volume 3, The One Who Got Away. Thank you. Bye.